Hello everyone, it's Jen from Old Tinkerer Studio. In this tutorial, we will be learning about the F-Curves used for animation in Blender 2.83. So let's get on with the tutorial. The F-Curves in Blender are the curves that correspond to an animated property. Keyframe interpolation refers to the process of filling in the data between two values and specifies how the curve is interpolated from one keyframe to the next. The different interpolation modes can be accessed under the Key menu or by selecting a keyframe and right-clicking to bring up the F-Curve context menu. By default, Blender uses the Bezier, which gives us smooth curves and thus smooth animation. Bezier interpolation is controlled by handles and their positions. The different handle types can be accessed under the Key menu or by selecting a keyframe and right-clicking to bring up the F-Curve menu. Free handles can be moved completely independently, and they can be used to make sharp changes of direction. Aligned handles are two handles of the curve point that are locked together, so they point in opposite directions, resulting in a smooth control point along the curve. The vector handles create linear interpolation between keyframes, and they remain linear when the keyframe centers are moved. However, when the handles are moved, the handle type switches to free. Automatic handles produce smooth curves. Auto-clamped handles are used to prevent overshoots and changes in the curves directed between the keyframes. The constant interpolation type uses no interpolation at all. This type of interpolation holds the value of its last keyframe. This type of interpolation is used during the initial blocking stage in pose-to-pose animation. The linear interpolation type creates a straight segment between keyframes. This type of interpolation is used to create infinite straight lines, i.e. a linear curve. The easing type controls where the easing effects apply between two keyframes. The different easing types can be accessed under the Key menu or by selecting a keyframe and right-clicking to bring up the F-Curve context menu. Automatic easing is the default Blender easing type. For transitional effects, automatic easing is treated the same as ease in. For physics effects, automatic easing is treated the same as ease out. Ease in builds up the second keyframe, slow at the beginning, fast at the end. Ease out fades out from the first keyframe, fast at the beginning, slow at the end. Ease in and out affects both keyframes, slow at the beginning and end, and fast in the middle. Extrapolation specifies how the curve extends before the first and after the last keyframe. There are two main types of extrapolations, constant and linear. The different extrapolations can be accessed under the Channel menu or by using the hotkey Shift-E. Constant is the default extrapolation used in Blender. The curves before the first keyframe and after the last keyframe have a constant value. Linear extrapolation means that the curves are straight lines, as defined by the first and last keyframes. An F-curve can be edited by transforming the locations of the keyframes. The keyframes can be moved, rotated, and scaled using the G, R, and S keys. There are also snapping options available for the keyframes under the Key menu. By using the hotkey Shift-S, or by right-clicking to access the F-Curve context menu. The Current Frame Snap option will snap the selected keyframe to the playhead. The Cursor Value Snap option snaps the selected keyframe to the 2D cursor. The Nearest Frame option will snap the selected keyframe to the nearest frame. The Nearest Second option snaps the selected keyframe to the nearest second. The Nearest Marker option will snap the keyframe to the nearest marker. The Flatten Handles options snap the Bezier handles for the selected keyframe. Keyframes can also be mirrored over different properties using the Mirror Keys tool. This tool can be accessed under the Key menu by using the hotkey Control-M or right-clicking to access the F-Curve context menu. The By Times Over Current Frame option mirrors the keyframe horizontally over the playhead. The By Values Over Cursor Value will mirror the keyframe vertically over the 2D cursor. The By Times Over Time 0 mirrors the keyframe horizontally over frame 0. The By Values Over Value 0 will mirror the keyframe vertically over value 0. And the By Times Over First Selected Marker mirrors the keyframe over the first selected marker. The Decimate tool simplifies the F-curve by removing keyframes that influence the curve shape the least. The Decimate tool can be accessed under the Key menu. The Ratio mode deletes a defined percentage of keyframes as defined by the Remove property. The Error margin mode deletes keyframes by defined amount, which is controlled by the max error margin. The Active F-Curve panel displays the properties of the active F-curve, which can be accessed in the sidebar region using the N key. The channel name is at the top of the property panel. The RNA path is the path of the property. The RNA array index is the index of the specific property affected by the F-curve. Display color is used to change the color of the F-curve in the graph editor. Handle smoothing is used to compute the Bezier handles. Continuous acceleration is the equation that helps to avoid or minimize jumps in acceleration to keyframe. Interpolation refers to the interpolation type of the keyframe. The key value sets the value for the active keyframe. The keyframe sets the frame for the active key. The left handle X and Y sets the position of the left and right interpolation handle for the keyframe. And type refers to the handle type. F-curve modifiers, like object modifiers, add non-destructive effects that can be adjusted at any time and layered to create more complex effects. The F-curve modifiers can be accessed via the sidebar region, which is accessed by the N key. The generator modifier is a mathematical formula that creates more complex curves depending upon the used values. The built-in function modifier are additional mathematical formulas that control the shape of the curves. The envelope modifier allows you to adjust the overall shape of the curves using control points. The cycles modifier allows you to add cyclic motion to a curve with 2 or more control points. The noise modifier uses a noise formula to modify the curve. The limits modifier limits curve values to a specific x and y range. And the stepped interpolation modifier gives the curves a stepped appearance by rounding values down within a certain range of frames. If you have a request for a tutorial or a question about Blender, feel free to leave a comment. If you're interested in learning more about 3D art and animation, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.